Folks in Arizona have choices to make. They can replicate the natural environment in their landscaping, or they can go to more formal gardens that are very much in evidence at the Tucson Botanical Garden, for instance. The borders are usually rocks, stones, and we find a lot of bluestone. I mean, that seems to be a preference, if you can find them, as borders, for instance, in the driveway. And homeowners on the typical ranch house very rarely have lawns, particularly if they're trying to conserve water. Here we see a little hole for a snake, prickly pear. The trees are usually octilo or tilo, and creosote bushes, and the natural plants. So it's an easy landscape in many respects, particularly if you use the material that's already there and just add to it with succulents and cacti and the like, desert palms. Now, of course, we're at the Tucson Botanical Garden here, and they have the benefit of irrigation. Now, when you have irrigation, you get much more lush plants. Of course, they still sparingly use the water, and perhaps they can have smaller areas where they use the water. Here we see an area that is not irrigated, and there is a lawn there, believe it or not. We have even have some desert palms in the distance. And we see the creosote bush here in the front, as well as some agave, and the usual collection of cacti, creosote plant, excuse me. Here we see some more prickly pear along the driveway. Now some of the Arizona houses that we visited on our Garden Writers tour in Tucson did have shaded areas. Of course, if you have plants under arbors, you're going to use less water, of course. We're back at the Botanical Garden again, Tucson Botanical Garden. Here we see a little small Zen garden, and it's very easy to replicate when you're in the desert because usually they use just raked gravel and a center stone to indicate the center of the universe. Very few plants. Matter of fact, I see more plants in this Zen garden than I did at the Zen garden in San Marino at Huntington Gardens. And of course, it's a nice respite, and usually these desert gardens are often modeled after Mediterranean gardens and the Persian gardens in particular. And Persian gardens use a lot of rectangular landscaping with walls and arbors and the like, and has great use is quite popular in desert gardens in Arizona. Here we see another cropping of boulders in a Zen garden. In this particular case, it's just raked gravel. And if you want to go to a formal garden, then you might visit the monastery that they have in Tucson, the Catholic monastery, where they do have grass because they have irrigation, of course. They have the palm trees, and it's landscaped very much like you would see on the East Coast. But of course, they use a native material in the landscape itself. So you have a great deal of choices from the formal to the informal desert garden when you landscape in Arizona.